Welcome to Anecdotes for Success with Matt and Paul. Storytelling is an art form, emphasizing the value and learning that is created through personal experience. Our purpose is to share these stories and experiences with the listener. Everyone has a powerful testimony. Let's use them to level up to our best life with truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective.
Big shout out to Isaac Mather for the new podcast intro. You can check Isaac's music out on all socials or directly at isaacmathermusic.com. All right. Matt, what episode, 119 this is now?
Oh, I was going to say 118, but I could be wrong.
I think it's 119.
We're moving along still, right?
Yeah, and we did a better job today of not getting too far into any conversation with our guest Jeff before it starts. So Jeff, welcome.
Thank you. Privilege and honor to be here, especially with you too. First time meeting Matt. So Matt, been a pleasure to meet you already. Paul, already know you. Got the privilege a while ago. So here we are.
Yeah, it's, we talk about relationships all the time. I met you a little while back and we spoke forever about a venture my wife and I are on. And I remember I didn't even know you owned the brewery you were at. I've seen you there before. As far as I knew, you were just an employee there. You know how your mindset works when you walk in. And before we get into too much, I just love how this has all come 360. And Matt never really knows who we have on the podcast until he meets you. And that makes it a lot of fun. And I already know you two. Well, I can already see you two have gelled, and I can't wait to see where this goes. So, Jeff, you go back as far as you want. Well, I'm assuming high school or whatever. Tell us in the last 9 years since high school, 9 years, right?
Yeah. Approximately, we're actually coming up on our 10-year anniversary in next June. And I'm the one coordinating that one. So that'll be
of course
entertaining.
Of course you are.
Yeah. Somebody has to, right?
So just start off mindset, what you did in high school to now, and you're into so much. I get the average person gets tired just listening to what you do, but I know that's what fuels you. So go ahead.
Oh, I just get my hands in everything. I love every bit of it, no matter what it is. I hate having idle hands. But so that being said, to answer your question, I guess back in high school, really worked alongside my father. He had a business way back, a wheelchair company. So he saw me as free labor. So I worked a lot with him, installing and doing some visits with people in wheelchairs. Is very, very humbling. With that being said, so I got there. My mindset was very similar to everybody else's. I was really pushed to go to college. Didn't know until my senior year what I was going to be even going for. I actually wanted to be a teacher at first. My parents said maybe not the best route right now. So I ended up going to college to be an electrical engineer. In that process, I decided to start a food truck company because I did the math. Well, I went to college, I played football for about 2 years, then ended up playing rugby instead. I was doing 40 hours a week on football. I'm like, you know what? There's not enough payout for. I was D3. I didn't see it going big time, and there's just a lot of time and effort, especially on the engineering classes. So I thought I did some math. I'm like, I'm paying this much per day to be here, or I'm losing this much per day to be here. I'm like, I should probably try to start making some of this money back. And so I had a buddy and I can go into detail, probably too much detail about too many things. Food truck company, if I'm going to be very short about it, is a whole story in itself of how it developed. Started out in front of one of our local bars. We had two in our town. I went to Alfred University and started out in front of us selling hot dogs out of a shopping cart, and ended up finding a market because we sold $80 or $70 worth within an hour, and said, "There's a market here." I had some money saved up from just selling trucks and working before that. And so I ended up investing that into a food truck. I ended up developing food trailer, really. Did that throughout college. Ended up developing an Amazon company also, where I sold some products on Amazon through out of my dorm room, because I found out it was pretty simplistic. I had the post office within 100 yards of me, so it's pretty easy to deliver. and did both of those simultaneously while doing classes. And then eventually developed the food truck to have 3 food trucks, 10 employees by the time I was graduating college. The Amazon company, we just did here and there. Did that, sold that company off before I moved to Pittsburgh, where I took up a engineering job for the company HWI, or formerly known as HWI Refractory Company, which is interesting in itself. Had a really cool position there, part of the fire program, where I changed my occupation almost every 6 months. So interesting. So one of which I was first the HBS coordinator, which was all about business efficiency and being, I guess, most time efficient and heart efficient. I was traveling all over the world trying to do, well, mainly stateside, but doing business efficiency in warehouses. As how old was I? That 21-year-old trying to tell a bunch of guys that have been doing their job for how long to, hey, this might be not most efficient. Let's try to do this. And it might be just putting tools back or something of that nature. Went from there into a sales role for Mular, which was a refractory brick lifting apparatus. Really cool. Went to a bunch of refractories trying to show them for ergonomics and such. From there, ended up being going up to Gary, Indiana, being a ladle operator supervisor. We'll have a crew about 6, and we just rebuild ladles. Did that for a while. That Gary's a interesting place. Got a lot of life lessons out there. Eventually got furloughed, laid off because of COVID. Unfortunately, I didn't really have much to go back to. At least ran up, so I'd moved back home. Moved in with a friend at the time that I've known for about a couple of weeks, and they were letting me live with them. And I was like, well, I can't live for free, so I started working on her father's rentals, and then had some money from the food truck. I never really used that nest egg for the food truck company, so I ended up buying my own houses to flip. Started flipping houses, buy my own rentals, doing that, developed kind of where I can be more hands off with the flipping because I was doing all my own work. Being more hands off by subbing everything out, and then just developed that and kept it going until I had enough rentals where I was kind of snowboarding 3 days a week. I was having a good time. I still live very, very frugal, but that's just how I've developed myself to be. So I can go snowboarding 3 days a week, and all I had to do is fix rental properties if needed. Got to that point. Before I became a real estate agent, my realtor brought up to me this establishment. It was vacant for about 2 or 3 years prior to me becoming a part of it. I said, you know what? I love developing businesses. I love that grind of seeing something start to finish, even if I don't know what it is, because we'll probably get into brewery later. I have no idea what I was doing in regards to brewing, and still figuring it out very much so. And so I jumped into this, bought it in November of 2021, opened doors September 2022, and have been developing with this and still doing all my real estate on the side ever since then. And here we are. Now I got invited to be on this podcast and having a great time.
Matt, does he check all the boxes?
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know how many boxes there are to check, but that's that you got an interesting story, Jeff, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of things that stand out to me. What did you graduate college?
Yep. So I got a 4-year degree.
Gotcha. The only reason I'm curious is with so much going on, I wouldn't have been at least bit surprised or advised otherwise if you just dropped out and said, hey, I see these other things I want to do. But you were in sales, you were in operations, you were in like logistics and all. One of the things that I always tell people all the time, number one, is get into sales. It's something I think everyone needs to know about. And I'm not saying you have to be the best salesperson in the world, but boy, do I think it's good to feel rejection and understand what that's like and understand how to sell to people. Since we're selling all the time, I'm sure
there's sales in every market. Every market there's sales.
Right, exactly. Everything's sales. We're selling all the time, and it's really good to understand how that process works, even if it's not your love or what you want to do long term. I think it's vital for a business person or or frankly anybody who wants to succeed to understand that process. But you've done all these different things and you bounced around. Was that by design? Was that you just living your life and things happening as they were happening?
Planned it just how I wrote it up, just there, exactly. No, no way, shape, or form did I write this. I could, to Paul's point, 9 years ago, 10 years ago would be my graduation, or next year would be. I had no idea what was going on. I couldn't have wrote this story in any way, shape, or form. And I talk to my buddies all the time, like, Jeff, I was just upstairs cleaning kegs, and he'll clean kegs. Like, Jeff, would you expect to be here at this point? No, no way, no way. But I think there's different avenues, and in full transparency, this isn't where I want to be for my end all be all. And
Yeah,
I
fair
have
enough.
other aspirations I want to accomplish, and but that's the fun of it. Is we all have a journey that we need to go around, and what does yours look like? None of them are going to be the same, and sometimes you end up in things that you didn't anticipate.
So what drives you? Like, what are you doing? What is the plan? And how, I mean, or do you even, you don't, may not even have one. I mean, it sounds
So
like,
I so to your question, I think there's a couple things to break down there.
yeah,
What drives me, for example, and what is the plan? I think two separate different things we can touch on. What
sure.
drives me, especially when I started the food truck thing, because I was delivering food trucks at four. I had a co-op at the time during college too, so I'd work my co-op up until about Thursday, and then after that, I'd go deliver food trucks at whatever event through New York State. Drop it off for an employee to come the next day to start operating it for the weekend. So, and I was running food trucks at 4 a.m, and people would ask me, even in college, I'd have other, colleagues that were saying, Jeff, why do you do this? And it kind of comes back to the point and where I said what my upbringing was when my father had his business. My parents, God bless them both. They did a pretty good job, and they were both very hard workers. Unfortunately, my father's business, he didn't really work out. He never wasn't crazy lucrative. There's some insurance things that had happened with a changing in like terms through presidencies and things of that nature that really hurt his business. But anyways, my parents are very hardworking, and as kids, and does not come in any way, shape, or form as a something that's bad or to talk down onto them in any slightest form. My parents worked very hard. They worked very hard to give my sisters and I what we got. We grew up on a farm, so it was we had farming all the time too. So they worked very hard. That being said, not all the time could they be present with all our activities. We were three busy children. We all had sporting events. We all had this and that, and we were always bumming rides or doing whatever else. To make sure I used to ride my bike from our farm 7.5 miles to just go to double sessions to get there, because my parents couldn't do it, and that's fine. I want to make sure that in time I work hard enough to where I can be very present for my children's lives. I don't have children. I'd love to have children one day. I'm just thinking I want to make sure I do that for them. So that started my drive. Another drive is I found this love for developing businesses. This always change is beautiful. My drive is just, and my drive's changed in the past couple of years. I've realized some transitions with myself alone, that there's some people out in this world that, and this will get into what my my end all be all is, they'll kind of connect. Oh no, maybe not end all be all, but is I think there's some people in this world that haven't had somebody come in and be able to tell them how much they're worth and what they can accomplish and things of that nature. So I want to be able to tell people really, really how incredible they can be, whether they may not have a college degree or they may have dropped out of high school, or they, so you can learn something from everybody. There might be a person that, they can't do much for math, but they can make a motor turn over like no one's business.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how to do that as well as they may, and they can teach me something. Or there's somebody that knows accounting far better, but can't remote, but has no idea for vehicles or something. We're all in this together. So I'm kind of getting away from my point
No,
here.
no,
not at all.
In fact, you're touching on one of the most important things that exists is your purpose and your meaning, right? You're not just, hey, how much money can I make, right? I'm here to make as much money. You got a higher purpose, right? You got something else that you're interested
Absolutely.
in. And so you're spot on, at least in our world, right, Paul? But with that said, Jeff, why do you care to do that? Where's this coming from?
I just feel so. I don't mean this to sound arrogant or conceited in any sense. I feel like I've been very privileged in the sense of, this comes back to my father. I used to help him all the time and put people in wheelchairs that had muscular dystrophy and were set up from birth that were in chairs. And we'd set some really cool people up in chairs where they would move the whole chair by their neck or a pinky. And we'd have to mold their body into this chair. And I'm so humbling that I have two legs I can move. So I feel like I've been so blessed that I do have a decent mind on my shoulders, or I think I do, to where not everybody is that privileged. And I think people that aren't as privileged in one shape or form, there's certain things I lack for sure. I know that. And I think everybody can probably say that if they're being honest. And I think that I can attempt to be that person for people to say, like, hey, you may have this disadvantage, but look how advantage you are. Look at the great advantage you have in this realm. You are worth it, and that's my goal. And just because I think you only have so much time on this planet, and we don't know if tomorrow's the last day or in 100 years, I need to make sure I touch as many people between now and then. And I think as much as bartending and everything like here isn't my end all be all, I think it's a great soapbox to be on because I get to talk to people every day and try to leave a positive note. I just think, go ahead.
No, you just nailed perspective too. I mean, growing up and instead of whining or complaining about the hard work and being on the farm and
I complained. Don't worry. Trust me. I did my fair share of complaining.
All right. Well, looking back, you realized it wasn't warranted compared to the perspective you gained by helping the people that needed the wheelchairs and the devices, right?
Absolutely.
And you definitely, from what I've known you as and what we've learned today so far, you don't look like a sympathy guy. You look like a solutions guy.
Sometimes it gets me in trouble.
Well, yeah, because a lot of times people just want sympathy for everything they're going through. And probably when you come with a solution, people aren't always happy to hear it.
No, and that sometimes comes to there's so many books on that, right? That where we can read of how to help people in certain places because certain people have different receptors, and the way of how they're going to interpret. And a lot of times some people just want to be heard. Some people want a solution. And sometimes people want both, but not ready for one yet. So I mean, yeah, I tend to be more solution oriented. I try to take emotion out of a lot of things. I got that from more of real estate and some business, just because when you get into business rental properties things like that, you got to take all emotion out. That might be a beautiful duplex, but if the numbers don't work, the numbers don't work.
The numbers don't work.
That's it.
Yep.
I feel like I'm talking to you two are like the same person, and I'm just caught in this time warp here. Old Matt, and young Matt, or Jeff and old Jeff. I don't know which way it's going, but
I'll be young Matt if you want.
Yes, but all this is just resonating. I'm so impressed at your age, all you've accomplished. And we say all the time, the reason people aren't real happy is because they think it's some destination you get to, and then you're just happy. It's the journey, and you're experiencing it. Doesn't mean every day is great, but more days are great, and you're just loving it, and you have no plans to stop building, and that's why you're happy. I think you look happy.
No, when I boil down with what drives me as an individual, what my mission statement is as a human, because I think it's important for people to develop that for themselves, and making sure I'm aligned with that throughout my living. I'm happy. Like I said, I get to talk to people every day and try to make their journey better. It takes one person to make one big difference. I'm only gonna be here for so long on this planet. I gotta do what I can to make sure it's a better place when I leave it. So
yeah, no, I love your attitude on that, and your story so far. I mean, you've got hopefully many years left, right, and a lot of great things to accomplish. Hopefully, we all do. And what do you think? Getting back to what's the goal? Is there? I mean, look, you don't have to own a bar or real estate or flip houses to make people happy, right? You can go stand on the corner and let people walk by you and try to talk to them, right, and make them happy. Where does this entrepreneurial spirit fit into, who you are and where you want to be in life?
So that's a great question. I'm happy you circle back to that. Um, is so my end all be all. We'll start with that. My kind of goal, right? Developed years ago, and it'll probably change here in the next couple of years again. Who knows? I do want to have a bigger soapbox, if you will. I want to, and I think things have changed more with, we'll say TikTok and more podcasts, things like that. I do listen to podcasts religiously. I always have headphones in 97% of the time, and either I'm listening to a podcast or an audiobook or some motivational thing. It may be something of that nature, right? It's always time for learning, even if I'm just subconsciously listening to it. And I want to, I look up to a lot of people that are able to make a difference on a bigger scale. And I would love to create that validation and for lack of better verbiage, of myself for others. Meaning I want people to develop something where people are willing to listen to me because I may be an expert in some field. So that way I can start teaching in that field on a greater scale, whether it be real estate, brewery, entrepreneurship, whatever it may be. I want to develop that. So that way people do have the means to listen to me because, hey, you might have something. The goal is then to develop people in that realm, whatever it may be. And I think that needs to be narrowed more, to my honest opinion. And then eventually move that into somewhat of self-development, and just so I want people to want to listen to me is my whole goal. Just to try to make people's lives better. My goal is one day I wanted to be able to give seminars. That's why I would love to travel, give seminars. I used to do it for the company I used to work for, where I'd go into colleges and try to get people to come to our company. And I stand for the big auditoriums full of people, and I absolutely loved it. I loved every bit of it. It's such a cool, privilege to do that. And that's what I would love to do one day, is be able to travel in sense and just talk to people and again, come from where I am behind the bar, like, they're worth it, help people in some way, shape, or form, through whether they have something they want to learn. And that would be my end all be all. But now the tough part is getting from here to there. And I think that's where it's developed for me throughout college. Cause I learned junior year of college, I didn't want to be an electrical engineer anymore. And I even told my mother, I told her, I said, Mom, I don't want to do this. It's just not for me. And she's like, are you failing? Are you failing out? Mom, no, I'm not failing out. I just can see long-term that this isn't me. And I know that. But I will get my degree because I'll fall back on it if need be. And, so I kind of realized that, but I said, you know what, I need to create something where people want to listen to me, to then create validation, become an expert in some field, to then start along that process and slowly get either accolades or just more exposure. I think I'm doing a disservice to myself by not being more on TikTok or developing a podcast like yourselves, or something of that nature. But that's why this today, huge to me. I would switch around my schedule every day of the week to do this, just because this is similar to what I'm looking for in the future. I love this.
Paul and I do, right, Paul?
Yeah, Jeff, we started it because we had phone conversations once a week, and we're like, we should record these things. And then we were terrible at first with this because we just found ourselves staring in the camera and not knowing what to say. And at the end of the day, it's kept Matt and I consistently having conversations that I think sharpen each other and make us our best selves. And we've met tons of people along the way and formed those relationships like we're doing now. And I leave these things. Luckily, this one isn't an evening one because I just can't go to bed after them, and I'm ruined the next day in a good way, So yeah, we know exactly what you mean.
We do.
Yeah, I'm gonna be so jazzed up after this. I know it already. So I mean, I resonate with
Jeff,
that.
I think it's funny. Paul's probably thinking the same thing. Like, much of what you're saying is, look, we want to make a positive impact as well, or why record it? Why bring people on? Why do that? That was always our intent, because we were having these interesting conversations all the time, and I'd say we thought they were interesting, but they were interesting. They are interesting. I mean, there's that for certain people. There's other people who probably, of course, could care less, but they these conversations drove us to, hey, we want to have a positive impact on people too, because people had positive impacts on us, right? And we know that's important and wanted to do it, and then we've created relationships with other people and just kind of gone on and on. But I'll tell you, you talk about speaking engagements and going out there and doing that. You let me know if you're out there doing it, because I want to go too, because I feel the same way. I love that.
We'll go together. We'll be a duo. Perfect.
Right.
Sign
Paul,
us
you're
up.
coming too. I
Well,
love
I was gonna
public.
say trio.
I was gonna
know.
say, Paul, you didn't jump in. I expected you to jump in and say, hey,
Yeah.
me too, before
You,
I could
you
even
need
jump in. So
you need somebody to moderate it and keep you on task.
that's the truth. That's
true.
it. Paul,
That's
moderator
true.
here.
But-
Absolutely.
But that same drive that you have is in us as well, and we talk about then the imposter syndrome that kind of comes with some of that kind of stuff, and boy, am I worth listening to? I'm not even sure I want to listen to myself some days, because I think of all the problems or the failures, and that leads me into my next question, which is, look, you're a young guy, and that's not patronizing at all. You're clearly a hardworking, successful person who's got goals and dreams and aspirations. I can't speak, higher about that. I love that in you. Have you had any failures that you want to share? Maybe you have, you just don't want to share them. Like,
Oh my goodness.
Tell us a little bit about that. Maybe you haven't. That'd be great too. But I'm just curious.
Depending what you're defining as a failure, because I mean, I fail every day. If you're not failing, you're not living. I mean, that's the God honest truth about everything. I fail time again. I mean, attribute that to we'll say Tesla and Edison and everyone else, how many inventions they failed on. I'm constantly doing simple things around here. I just developed a keg washer out of, I failed numerous times trying to get it to work. That's probably not what we're really getting at, but I fail all the time. I'm a big trial and error kind of guy. So I'm always used to failure in that. I failed, food trucks when it first started. It kind of wasn't completely off the ground great. I hit a lot of road bumps. I failed consistently of not being approved for this or that, and fighting like to even get my food truck into certain locations because they wouldn't allow it. Like Alfred wouldn't allow it. I had to go to the courthouse and plead my case and all this other crazy stuff. Would remained a failure. And that's great, but I just persisted out of them and was persistent enough where I'm like, hey, this isn't, if I want it, I'm going to do it. I failed. Here's a fun one. That job in Pittsburgh, I failed at it. I did. And I will, try to get quickly into that. I did those roles, and one of them was at HBS, where it was a business efficiency. And I had this manager above me, and she was very, very busy, and it's tough to get in front of her. Unfortunately, it was very tough to read her, and sometimes too, I didn't do the greatest job of it and it kind of showed in sense where I developed this big slideshow for to show what I've developed. Unfortunately, we had a peer review, or I guess employee review, and she was a manager. So she managed me and said, I haven't even seen this yet. I haven't done this and this and this. And I'm like, well, manager, our meeting's on Friday. We're going to have this meeting on Tuesday for a peer review. So she gave me an all full review. And then eventually on Friday, we had the review, and she looks at me and goes, Jeff, because in that review, she kept saying, sometimes we have to get socks, in reference to like almost a Christmas thing. Sometimes you have to get socks. Sometimes you don't want socks. You got to get them to enjoy your good present or something. Right. This is how she put it. And Friday, eventually I showed her the slideshow, and she's like, Jeff, if you showed me this on Monday, I wouldn't have given you socks. But it was just tough because I couldn't get in front of her. I had miscommunication, all stuff. Well, lo and behold, so that review is ranked 1 through 5. I think I got like a 2.7. 3 was a mark at minimum you're supposed to have. Well, after that, when they were doing their layoffs for the company because of COVID, since I had that bad review, I got laid off. And I had colleagues that were in the similar position. We were like 6 of us, and that's a whole crazy interview process we had to go through. 6 of us that were in this fire position. It was called, it's an acronym, it's like first year initiative, something or another. And I was one of the few that actually got laid off. And they're like, Jeff, we can't believe it. I go, it is. But lo and behold, it ended up bringing me back home, developing the real estate and all these
Right.
crazy things. It was a blessing in disguise. And even though
Yep.
how lost I was, because I truly was lost and not trying to get too deep into, personal. I mean, I'll tell you anything you want. I'm an open book. But not trying to get too deep into personal things, but I didn't have anything to go back to, even back when I moved back home. I didn't have a house. I didn't have a home. So I had to move in which honestly, being so honest, it was a girlfriend I just started dating a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I moved into their family. And then they were incredible family. Still think they're incredible family. Didn't work out between her and I, but incredible family. Still are. So they ended up moving myself and my little sister in because we had nowhere to go. And and then we were them. We were with them for like all through COVID. And but it was a blessing in disguise. I got a little off track there, but I failed.
No, you did not.
Truly did fail.
Think about it. If you stayed out there, I think minds like yours, you would have not kept doing the track you were doing regardless of the layoff. But I think the layoff just sped it up for you.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I was been listening to Brandon Turner from and David Green from Bigger Pockets podcast for years. And I actually was down there working on other people's rentals too, because I had enough handiness and I just wanted to understand it more. And I wanted to jump in and say, hey, I'll be your pretty much free labor. I just want to understand more. And I was down in Pittsburgh doing that for people just because I'm like, I need to understand before I can make that jump.
Well,
And go ahead.
No, Jeff, first of all, you've convinced me you're a huge failure. I thank you for I
try to be at least. Or
No,
yeah, podcast is over. Let's go.
I can
see you guys.
I'm with you, man. I can name off failure after failure. And what is so awesome about it for me is like you talk about making people better. And one of the things that and showing them that they have something to give, right? They have these gifts. And I feel the same exact way. One of the things that just drives me crazy is people fail at something and I'm done. They quit. They're out. And that is the biggest killer to anyone. I mean, talk about a dream killer. And it's so common. And then to hear kind of some of your story and you don't even you talk about failure as part of the process, right? Because
God, you put it so great. Exactly. I couldn't say it better.
That's just what it is. And you got to keep going and you understand that. And it's part of why you are and are becoming who you're becoming. And I wish I could just bottle that and feed it to people and say, like drink this or eat this. Like, this is what it's about. This is the story you need to know. This is how it works. I was going to talk about that, and then you just said something else I'd rather talk about, which is you said to me a thing I said to my class today, and Paul, I said it in your class. You said, you didn't want to get paid. You wanted to know how to do the job, you wanted to learn the you weren't about getting paid. And I said to Paul's class today, I said, there's two types of people. There's the one type who they want their wage no matter what. They're not going to get off that stool or off their seat or off their butt until you give them their $15 or $20 an hour or 50, whatever their number is. That's it, period, end of discussion. They're not doing a damn thing. And then there's the Jeffs of the world who go, keep your money, give me your knowledge, give me your process, give me your relationship, give me your know-how. I don't want your money because that's what's really valuable, because I'm going to parlay that into something that's worth more than any amount of money you could possibly pay me. And so when you said that, where did that come from? Because that is the gold. That is the thing that I can't convince people of. Like, stop worrying about getting paid for every hour, every moment of your life, and start getting in with the right people, gaining their knowledge, because that's where your future is.
I think it's the best point, and I think there's steps to it, and I agree with you so fully. I actually now will come in and like there's certain people come in, I'm coaching, quote unquote,
Yeah.
people into business. They're making that step. I agree with what you said completely, but I also disagree with it.
Okay.
And I say that meaning I think there's steps to do it. I think everybody needs a living wage, right?
Okay.
As much as I wanted to out of school go and teach or whatever else do whatever, I couldn't do it, right? I have student loans, I have bills to pay, I have this and that. So as much as I would love to say I don't need money, because to a point, you don't, but you do. I luckily enough, and I tell all the people I'm telling now, so I built enough rental properties, or not built, but acquired enough to where I have monthly income every month that I'm not technically working for, right? That's allowed my time to then come into this business or into something else. Luckily, in that aspect of being in Pittsburgh, I had my nest egg of my food truck company to dip into. Also, everything shut down, so a lot of payments stopped. So I wasn't hemorrhaging money.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
sure.
I think there's a step where I agree with you completely in the sense of once you get to a certain point where you no longer need that source of income, then your wings will spread, you'll fly. But
I'll
you get into
clarify.
that
I'll
point.
clarify then, because we all need money to live, right? We all need to pay our
Yeah.
bills. To your point, and if you can't, it's like Maslow's hierarchy. If I can't take care of my basic needs, I can't go up the steps, right? I can't
Mhm.
continue to climb that where self actualization's right up there at the top, right? Where you're teaching people, where you're doing the things that are meaning and purpose, right there at the top of the pyramid, right?
Absolutely.
Which is
Yep.
where ideally we all want to go in our life, right? I think we're built that way for humans. So we have to pay our bills. No argument there. Now, how what I my opinion is, go get that job, go make your wage, go do what you got to do. No
Mhm.
one's handed me a nickel in my life, right? I'm with you. I had to work those 40 hours, then go to the people I knew. Can I learn from you from 10 hours a week?
Yes. Yep.
That's all
Huge.
I'm saying. Now,
Yes.
I'm not disagreeing at all that you just go, hey, I'm shutting everything down. I'm just going to go apprentice or volunteer. That's not, that's not realistic. You've got to have your food and your shelter and those types of things. I don't disagree at all with that. You've got to be able to survive before you can start doing those other things. The thing that I think is important that I try to get people to understand is you don't need the mansion, you don't need the fancy car, you don't need the brand name clothing,
Mhm.
you don't need a $7 Starbucks every day. That to me is not the need living wage or a need or whatever. Those are luxuries. You don't get luxuries at the beginning. You work for luxuries. So
Absolutely.
to me, I lived in crappy apartments and never had a brand name thing in my life, and didn't go on vacation for probably 10 years, didn't have cable TV, kept my heat at 58 degrees in the winter and put on sweatshirts and blankets, and made 8 fried bologna sandwiches 3 meals a day for years. So to me, what I did to get ahead is I made all those sacrifices and used my free time to build value in myself that I could then take to the marketplace and then get together with people who were succeeding. My idea was to spend time with them so I could be taught things. My idea
Mhm.
wasn't to go to the Jeffs of the world and say, hey, Jeff, I really want to learn how to be an entrepreneur like you. So I want to spend time with you, but I'm going to need you to pay me for it.
Mhm.
I looked at it in a different way where I said, I need to, I need to work to make my living. And then I need to spend the free time I then had with the Jeffs of the world. That's how I view it.
I completely agree with you 100% of what you said. And I think a big point you hit on it without saying it is just delayed gratification, right?
There, bingo. Yep, bingo.
That's the biggest point to all of this is just doing delayed gratification. If I can teach anybody at a young age delayed gratification, I mean, truthfully,
Yeah.
I bought this place from refinancing a few rental properties, things of that nature. And that's how I grabbed it. And I got a really, really good deal on it because I had so much cash on hand for it. Now, that being said, I drive an '06 Prius. I could have taken that, tens of thousands of dollars or what have you,
Yeah.
and bought BMW or a Mercedes or some luxury car. And don't get me wrong, that's another thing I did on the side. I used to flip vehicles, like trucks, because I knew them and I knew how to fix them, and usually it's pretty cost effective to fix them and make good money on them. And so I found out how to do that, so I had some vehicles that were very nice vehicles, but that Prius would give me the same place, actually with better gas mileage. So it was all delayed gratification. Every now and then, do we all, and I'm sure Matt and Paul, you can probably attest to this too. Every now and then, you probably get that urge to go, I really want that car. I really want that house. I really want X, Y, or Z. And then you got to bring yourself back a little and go, well, what's it going to do for me right now? Personally, I don't think I deserve it yet. I think in my time, I will eventually allow myself to do that. I don't own a house for myself. I live in one of my units. So, which is honestly the worst unit I could have because I'll make the lowest amount of money on it. But that's just me.
We're wired the same way, Jeff. We are wired the same way, man. I'm the same way.
Matt, how do you believe that so do you think you're wired that way from the start?
No.
Or no? Okay.
No.
So what happened to get you more wired that way? Was it something that you just developed over time, or was it one big click?
No, it's a great question, and I've thought about it many times, and sometimes I even change what I think. I mean, I grew up similar to you with wonderful parents, hardworking. My dad had his own business, but it was never a big business. It was just kind of a job, really, and kept food on the table and best parents you could ever ask for. And then I went to college and did all the things I was told I was supposed to do, right? I went and got the degree and went to work and did all the right things and went to work for companies and other people. And I was in the doing the things I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do, and I just felt so empty with so much of it. And it just finally, for a variety of reasons, clicked for me that this is one big wasn't what I want. It's not who I am. It's not what I want. I wanted freedom. You talked about what you wanted earlier, and it kind of resonated with me. Look, I want to do the things I want to do. I want to do the things with my family. I want to help people that have. I love helping people with their financial situations. I love teaching people. I love giving people my time in a way that can help them better their lives and coaching in their businesses and those kinds of things. I wanted the freedom to do that kind of thing, but what I realized was the only way to do that, and I wanted the freedom because I had one daughter at the time. Now I have two. I wanted the freedom to be able to live my life under my terms and not how much paid PTO I have or how many vacation days I have or what the business or my boss thinks. I didn't want any of that. To me, that was all a trap, and I was in it. And I realized, there's only one way out, and I've got to buy my way out through business. There's no other way. Otherwise, you have to have a job. You talk about your food trailers and those kinds of things. Like there's not a job out there I would take, Jeff, because I have to trade my time for money. And I don't want to trade my time for money. And you talked about that with what you were doing, right? And rentals and business and look, I spend a lot of time working because I love it, but I own 36 Subway restaurants. I own real estate. I own all these other things because I'm passionate about it, enjoy it. But what I wanted was my time back. I wanted my freedom. I wanted to do the things I want to do on my terms. And there's only one way to do that. That's owning your own businesses. You need the income coming in. So when I started buying a nice house or a nice car or a boat or some of those other those liabilities that are
great way to put it.
That are just liabilities. I only did it after I bought an income producing asset to pay for it. Right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
It's the only way. So I had to be making enough money to live comfortably. Then I went, now let's go buy the house. Now let's go buy a car if I want it. Now let's go buy a boat. Only though, once I was comfortable, and then I bought other income producing assets on top of it to pay for these what truly are luxuries, because I was driving up until a year ago, a 2012 Chevy Tahoe with 200,000 miles on it and no air conditioning for 3 summers. I would live in the crappiest apartment I own, Jeff, just like you, if I wasn't married with a wife and children. I'm wired. I'm same way, but I wasn't wired that way. I wasn't produced that way. I had to go through the failures, and I had to realize that this life that I was promised, this 9 to 5 or 40 hours a week with this retirement someday when I'm 70 with glaucoma and a bad hip, is not the dream. That is a trap. And I finally saw it and went, okay, I got to get out of it. How do I get out of it? I need to buy income producing assets. It's the only way out of it. And here I am.
The stories are awesome, and it's tricky because I know personally I fell into the comfort trap real early. I mean, after golf and getting into education around here, if you have two people that are educators, you make a lot of money and you get a lot of time off. Okay. And so I've used this analogy before, Matt. You're not wired. I agree with both of you. I was the dog in the nice yard with the invisible fence and think I had the world by the balls. You know, you get your summers off. I'm coaching, I'm around family, uh, thinking I'm making enough for when I'm 30 years in, I can retire. And I think sometimes an event happens. And when COVID happened, I talk about this a lot. I'm like, we might not ever have school again. And I'm going to go crazy just on a computer with people. And you're not wired. I think an event can trigger you too, right? Or a circumstance. And I know, I mean, in the last 4 years, Matt has watched the growth from investment businesses to trucks to first commercial property. But it clicked then that even if I worked till I was 55 or 60 as an educator, what's next? And I think my biggest scare isn't as much the free time that I had or being comfortable. I broke out of that invisible fence to see the whole new world that's out there, and the meaning and purpose, especially with my kids gone now, is I'll never stop working until the day I die. It's just now, what's my exit plan to get out of education so I can experience all this other stuff. So it's so easy in some jobs. Like I just had that job where you fall into that comfort level where you think you're the king of your world, and you're really not. You're just in this puny little morsel, and you're too scared to break out. So I was super fortunate, don't take this the wrong way, super fortunate that COVID happened for me, because it scared me straight, I guess. So I you know, your stories are more alike, and I just fell into that trap of comfort, and I'm not, it's not right or wrong. I'm glad I'm out of it. But you guys, it just never, I don't think you were ever comfortable, right? And you knew that, and you knew how to grow.
I'd agree with that. Paul, do you believe, as Matt said, you do have to buy yourself out of like your routine, your business, and things of that nature? I mean, it sounds like that's kind of what you're working on, especially with that commercial property and things of that nature. Do you see that kind of snowballing? Do you see that kind of being the route? I'm just saying, all right. So I'm saying, if somebody else is going to listen to this podcast, right, and they're on the same, they're on a step, they're stuck, quote unquote, in a 9 to 5, which if they love it, they love it. God bless them.
Right.
Now, but they do want to break out. What do they have to buy their way out? Personally, I got into rentals. I bought my way out. I knew if I could save another X amount of thousands of dollars, I could buy another rental. I love rentals because I think it's one of the only businesses where you can buy yourself a bonus or a pay raise. You know, I think it's incredible. But back to my point is, Paul, do you also believe that's the route? You almost have to buy your way out?
Yeah, without sounding like a hypocrite, my advice to young students now is take a gap year and save money in investment, or Matt's come in and buy a rental, take the equity, buy another one, grow that way, right? If you're someone like me that was 15, 20, 25 years in, let's face it, you are stuck in a way with insurance and maybe pensions. But COVID scared me to my investment business. My investment business made me realize my wife could retire early in Pennsylvania, take a hit on the pension, still go work in New York for the same amount of money, bank the pension, save it up, invest it. Now it leads to a property. Now you buy your way out, have a plan out, and just realize that it could take as little as 6 months. It could take 4 years, but boy, if you both talked about the delayed gratification. It was the same with me. It just happened later. I was I was 48 when I realized this. But if I didn't realize it then, when I turned 52 this month, I'd still be stuck, right? You learned it
Yep.
when you were what, 23 or 24. I always forget with Matt. What were you, Matt? 30 something when you
Yeah,
realized it?
I was like 31, 32 when I was like, "Oh my God, what the heck have I done? What, I'm stuck on this path, for the rest of my life." I could see it clearly now. I could see it clearly where this would end. And I was having conversations with people who'd been in the workforce now 10 years or so, and everyone was telling the same tale. Like, this is misery. What am I doing? What's next? What is it? Waiting for the next promotion? Hoping,
Hmm.
hoping somebody hits the lottery, hoping someone's Aunt Tilly passes away and leaves them a surprise $5 million. Like, where's the way out of it? Is this it? And that's what I would hear all the time. Is this it? And that's how I was feeling.
We
So,
j- we we joke in my classroom. We talked about this in a past episode. The best time to start was yesterday, right? And that's impossible. So the second best time to start's today. And
Absolutely.
if you don't, there's just going to be another today and today and tomorrow. And you just have to have a plan and take action. So buying out, taking action, a plan, delayed gratification, maybe they're all the same word. I guess it's more of a mindset,
Paul,
if
I would
that makes
say
sense.
I would say you have to take action and then make a plan. Like, if
There you go.
Yes,
unfortunately, what
yes,
happens
yep.
all the time is everyone's so busy making plans and all. I'll be ready in 6 months, and after this and after that, and that's a killer. It's like, take action, take your lumps. Jeff, you've got a lot of great stories on that, and build your plan now while you're taking your action. Paul, you took action, and now you're building your plan on your commercial real estate. But you're just like, here's a great opportunity. I'm doing it. I'll figure this thing out as I go. But if you had been like, well, let me get this all figured out and then I'm going to buy the
Oh
property,
my God.
it'd already be gone and it'd be game over.
Time out.
Analysis paralysis. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Yep.
found the name. So I never named the podcast till afterwards, but I'm going to tell you now. The name of this episode's "Take Action, Then Make a Plan." I
I love it.
think,
I love it.
unless I come up with something better, but
No,
uh,
I think it's spot on. I mean, especially, you can find out, you can look at your destination. You may not see the exact route to get there, and that route is never going to follow what you thought it was going to do. So why even
Yeah.
plan it out? I mean,
let me
yeah,
ask you another question because I haven't been at this as long as you guys. I'm not nearly successful as far as breaking away like you guys, and it's not a race. I'm just thankful I've met people like this that keep me accountable and make me realize this is my wife and I both, this is the way we want to finish our lives. But when you are growing and to this day, and you both can answer this question, we'll start with Jeff. Do you ever feel overwhelmed? Like, holy shit, what did I just do? Like, I
every
can't
day.
believe I'm okay.
No, well, I think it comes with the territory, right? So you're going to feel overwhelmed. And I actually, in full transparency, I'd say, I'm a big pattern person, even with my emotions. I'm a big pattern person. And I think if you're not controlling your emotions, you're not controlling your business. I can go down rabbit hole of that. With that being said, I know about every 2 weeks, I do feel more overwhelmed. What I know what happens every 2 weeks is I don't have everything cleaned or whatever else me. I actually have to now have a date with myself, a actual date where I may go sit out at Starbucks or wherever with a coffee, and I have to plan out and I have to write down why do I feel overwhelmed, and then I have to tree off each one of those things and go, what are the points of why that makes me feel overwhelmed? Financials, like, oh, big bills, huge bills, where it's like, okay, but where's the money going to come to pay that bill? Boom. No, not overwhelmed at all about it anymore. Products, development. Oh, what do we have to do to accomplish that? I think overwhelmed or feeling overwhelmed is because from my perspective, for myself, I think that comes with question marks. If there's a question mark, I will feel overwhelmed because I don't know the answer yet. There may not be a complete answer, but you may be along the same route. So that's how I think it needs where I feel overwhelmed, which is consistently, is because I have a question mark and I haven't answered it or I haven't taken the time to answer it. That's how I usually feel overwhelmed. But yes, I do consistently feel overwhelmed, but I now have protocol to combat
Nice.
that.
I feel overwhelmed often. It's very common. I've been feeling overwhelmed for 17, 18 years on this journey. There are just times where it's like, what in the heck what did I build here? What is going on? How is this being held up by me and my, like what, like, yeah, I feel overwhelmed often, often. I mean, overwhelmed is maybe not the right word. Anxious, I don't feel overwhelmed like, oh my God, I can't handle it. It's more like, how did this happen? And boy, I didn't see this coming. It was like one step at a time, and then you turn around and you look how far you've come. And so it's very normal. But Paul, you talked about being comfortable earlier. Comfort's the biggest killer there is.
Right.
Comfort, the number of people who I know who are smarter than me, it's an infinite amount. But they get so comfortable they don't do anything. They're just,
Oh my God, yes.
stuck in this. And then I'm out here just going opportunity, opportunity, failure, success, failure, success, opportunity, opportunity. In 5 years, I turn around and go, holy cow. And then I meet these people who I find to be extremely intelligent and capable. I see them 5 years later and I go, hey, what's new? And they go, not a thing. And it's true. They haven't done anything. They're just going to the same job, punching the same clock, doing the same thing. Personally, I couldn't live with myself if that were me. I'm not. It's not who I am. But yes, I feel stressed out. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like the weight of the world at times on my shoulders. But I've been feeling that way for 17, 18 years. I that's what I've come to expect. And if I'm not feeling that way, I'm not pushing myself. I'm not challenging myself. I'm not pushing the boundaries and becoming the best Matt Huffnagel I'm capable of being. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm not sure what I'm doing here. So that's how I view it. It comes with the territory. It's part of this process of trying to be the best version of Matt Huffnagel I can be. And the minute I'm comfortable, then I'm not, then that's not who I want to be. And if I'd say to the listeners, if you're comfortable all the time, you need to be asking yourself why.
As we wrap up, I think we can all agree is once it does click, or once you find out how exciting it is, it all becomes addictive, right?
Oh, so addictive.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I mean,
I-
being in charge of your own destination.
Yeah.
I have a plan. I'm going to put Jeff on the spot. I think we have to do a live episode at his place.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's bring it on. We can do it. We can we can go remote.
'Cause we didn't even get into the whole brewery business you have.
I know, right?
Oh, I
We gotta
know.
do that there. We'll do that there.
But we've had, we keep a close circle of return guests, and I think you qualify already. I'm going to say that without even asking Matt's permission.
Awesome.
Let's
Well,
do it.
I enjoyed myself very much, and it's when you enter this space, you'll understand a lot of what I've discussed today and I think you've gotten to see a glimpse of how my mind works. You'll see a lot in this place. I mean, of how it's developed. And I was thinking about today if we did get to it, which sounds like two to come, which I'm very excited about. Is this is not a bought facility. It's a built facility. I'm building I'm staring right now at a keg washer I built for about $600-$500. They usually cost thousands. I mean, 5,000 minimum. But that's because I'm going to build it. It's problem solving. And anyways, to the point, you'll see some of these intricate things go, wow, isn't that interesting? Cool. So I'm very excited for that too to come. I'll try to clean up beforehand.
Yeah, well, I found out today through one of my students, we're visiting you Friday.
Oh, he told me that you were going to.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Well, it's he said. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So do you have room for my afternoon class too from 12:30 to 1:30, or are you booked?
From 12:30 to 1:30, when is it? Tomorrow or
Friday?
Friday. Friday. We will be open, which if you're cool with it, I'm cool with it. How many students again?
We'll have about 14 in each class. I'll text you. I'll text you the details.
Yeah, shoot me a text. As of right now, yes, I should be able to handle that. We've seen upstairs. We can take off you upstairs. We can even text more about what all we want that day to look like. Maybe an agenda. I can even go into parts of the brewery, whatever we're looking at. We'll have fun. So Friday
Either
we'll
way.
have it. You'll be here at 9
9:30,
or
9:30,
9:30.
9:30 for the morning class. Guys,
Fantastic. All right.
another guest, Matt, you must meet in person. We've had a run of them lately.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to doing that. That'll be great. Jeff,
Hey,
it's been
as am
great
I.
meeting you.
Yeah,
You as
we'll
well,
talk
Matt. You as
soon.
well. Thank you.
We'll talk
Thank you,
soon.
Paul,
See
for
you guys.
getting this all together. See
All
you
right,
guys.
guys.
Have a great day.
Absolutely. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye now.